Hey guys, it's Monochrome. I want to talk to you about an aspect of self defense that, for some bizarre reason, a staggering number of people just don't get. And it's so basic. And I'm going to use something that happened very recently to basically illustrate my point. Ted Cruz, you all know who he is, was at some sort of public event and he got heckled when he tried to talk about the importance of self defense. Some very stupid individual who clearly never thought through her beliefs shouted, "Violence is never the answer to violence." And Ted Cruz paused for a moment, and then he replied with, "Sometimes violence is the only way to stop violence." And yeah, he's right. You guys know me. At least those of you who have been with me for a while on my channel. I try to keep politics out of my videos because I want this channel to be accessible to everyone who has various beliefs, creeds, outlooks on life, outlooks on the world. I think if everyone is genuinely tolerant, instead of just paying lip service to that word, I think we can learn a great deal from each other. But there's a very basic, simple fact of life that a lot of otherwise intelligent adults refuse to believe, refuse to acknowledge, because it runs counter to the way they were raised. It runs counter to their sacred cow beliefs about humanity, that all people are basically good deep down inside. Well, no, people are not basically good deep down inside. If that were true, homicide division as part of the police force in every single major city would consist of approximately two very elderly detectives close to retirement who would be sitting in a cramped office, sharing a desk, one on either side of each other. And if people were basically good, every single call they got to investigate a potential homicide would turn out to either be a suicide without a note, or it would turn out to be an accidental death in which, we're not really sure of the circumstances, so maybe it's a homicide. And then usually 99 times out of 100, it turns out, well, no, it was an accident. There just weren't any witnesses or enough initial evidence to confirm that. That's what the homicide division would be in every major city. It's not, is it? No, it's not. You have detectives working on multiple cases at the same time. It's just ridiculously violent out there. And granted, nowadays it's a lot more violent than it used to be just a few short decades ago. But even back in the 1990s, yeah, there weren't any budget cuts for homicide detectives, were there? No, there weren't. Here's the thing. Ted Cruz illustrated a very important and vital point. When you have someone who is being violent, someone who is fucking brutalizing people, How the hell are you going to stop them? Give them whatever weapon you want, knife, gun, whatever. You have someone who is brutalizing someone. Their life is in danger. How do you stop that individual? How? By trying to reason with them? Yeah, good luck with that fucking shit. I promised you guys blatant honesty on this channel back when I created it, and you're definitely getting some now. What are you going to do? Yell, please stop? Maybe reach into your wallet, pull out $30 and be like, hey, I'll give you this money if you'll just stop. Yeah, that's not going to work. You know what works? Pulling out your concealed carry pistol and putting a couple of rounds center mass into his torso. That works. Of course, what you've committed is an act of violence too. And you literally had no other way of stopping that individual. There's a perfect, blatant, textbook example of how violence sometimes is the answer. And a lot of the times, the only answer. That's just the reality. If you're a woman and someone breaks into your home, they're determined to rape you, brutalize you. Maybe you're 5'7", 110 pounds soaking wet. This guy is 6'2", 250 pounds. Looks like he lives at the gym. How the hell are you going to stop him? Go ahead, try reasoning with him. Go ahead. Try reasoning with him as he slams you down and bends you over the kitchen table and rips your negligee off or your pajamas. Keep trying to reason with him as he unzips his pants. Yeah, that's not going to work. Not going to work at all. What will work is having layers of defense in your home. But, it's going to take the cops some time to get there when your alarm goes off. And he might get pissed off that the alarm went off. So maybe instead of raping you, he just physically brutalizes you because he's pissed off, and then he leaves. Okay. Alarm didn't stop him. Nope. Because that's a noisemaker. It's a noisemaker. It gets people's attention. Maybe it's part of an automated system like ADT and the local police are called. It's still going to take them minutes to get there. So you better have an actual way of stopping this guy. One example, some of you know I do ASMR on my other channel. Well, there's a very popular ASMR artist, short, petite woman, very gorgeous, has a son. I'm not revealing anything that she hasn't revealed on her channel before. She did a role play, and in the role play, she showed off numerous items as her character. One of them, surprisingly, was a .38 snub-nose Rossi revolver, and I recognized it immediately based on the design. And I was like, oh, damn. Well, this is someone who understands that violence is the answer. Sometimes. When you are about to be brutalized by a man bigger and stronger than you are no match for him physically. So you need to stop him. You're not going to be able to bribe him. You're not going to be able to talk him out of it. You know what helps? Something like a .38 caliber Rossi and a couple of bullets center mass. That helps. Here's something else that helps if you don't have a gun. Yep, that helps. Now, this is actually a rescue knife. Glass breaker tip, razor seatbelt cutter, and you do have a blade, serrated. This works great as a rescue knife. It also works really good for putting several holes into a fucking rapist. You don't even need any training, and that's coming from someone who does have knife combatives training. You don't need any training. All you need is the determination and the will to fucking survive. Yeah. Someone once said, you put enough holes in someone, paramedics can't plug them all up in time. Very true. Very, very true. Something like this, yeah, it can come in handy if you don't have a gun. If you live in a state that hasn't violated and raped your Second Amendment rights, get a gun, get some training, especially if you're a petite young woman, or even if you're middle-aged or elderly. Fact of reality, violence is the answer to violence much of the time. I know I've said sometimes in this video, let's just change that to much of the time. Because when you're dealing with someone who's there in your house, ready to brutalize you, ready to brutalize or rape your wife, your daughter, and you have the ability to stop them, but you don't, because you believe this stupid ingrained mentality that violence doesn't stop violence, well, you're a fucking idiot. Hell yeah, it does. When a police officer shoots an armed suspect who is shooting people on the street, guess what? That police officer is committing an act of violence to stop violence. Can't make it any clearer than that. Same thing when a civilian has to use their home defense handgun, or their fireplace poker, or the baseball bat they keep behind the door of their bedroom. Or an armed citizen has to use their concealed carry handgun. Violence is the answer much of the time to stopping violence. You need violence as a reaction to stop initiated violence. That's just the reality. And it goes to another really stupid belief. There are plenty of fake, phony, con artists, so-called self-defense experts who will happily take your money, bring you into a classroom environment, and one of the first things they tell you, I will teach you techniques that will allow you to stop a violent attacker without hurting them. And you know what usually happens? Those students who are part of that initial class who know nothing about the reality of self-defense, what do? They breathe a sigh of relief. Oh, good, I'm going to learn techniques that will help me to stop a violent attacker who wants to brutalize me without hurting them. This is great. No, that's not great. First of all, it's a fucking lie. You cannot physically stop a violent attacker without resorting to violence, without hurting them. It is physically fucking impossible. Here are the keys to a car that has all of its wheels stolen and it's up on blocks. Go ahead, drive it down the street. Is it physically possible? Fuck no. And yet, for some bizarre reason, people genuinely believe that it's physically possible to stop a violent, determined attacker without hurting them. No. And if you think it is, there's something wrong with you. You've been lied to. Thankfully, proper training from a proper instructor will get rid of that idiotic, insane belief. You need violence in order to stop violence, because there's nothing else that's going to stop it. There is no peaceful method. No, doesn't work that way. You want to protect yourself from a violent attacker who is determined on beating you, murdering you, raping you, you have to hurt them. Even if you spray them in the face with pepper spray, guess what? You're causing pain. Pain equals hurt. You're hurting them, and you have to in order to save your life. So even if you're someone who thinks that pepper spray is the answer, well, guess what? You're hurting them with the pepper spray. Yeah. That's how it is. And the last thing I want to address, and some of you will think I'm nuts for bringing this up, but I have heard people express this absolutely idiotic philosophy. Well, if I walk around with just positive thoughts and I will myself not to live a violent life, and I will violence to not touch me. If I walk around with these wonderfully positive thoughts, I will create an aura of protection around me. Seriously, what the fuck is wrong with you? I'm sorry. Here's the thing. I'm not a violent person. I really don't like violence. I don't watch YouTube videos in which teenagers are filmed beating the ever-loving shit out of each other for stupid reasons. Oh, this girl called me a bitch. I'm going to rip her hair out of her skull and stab her in the gut. No, what the fuck? I don't enjoy watching videos of dumbass teenagers beating the shit out of each other. I don't like violence, but I acknowledge the fact that sometimes it's necessary. When someone brings violence to you, it's absolutely necessary because nothing else works. You can't defend yourself without hurting your attacker. It's physically fucking impossible. And I'm sorry, but for all of you out there who think that an aura of positivity and positive vibes will prevent violence from coming your way, oh my God, you are so horribly naive. No, it won't. Life doesn't work that way. I'm sorry. Now, I like positive vibes. I do. I appreciate it when those are sent my way by other people I know. I appreciate it a great deal. But at the same time, I'm a realist. And the reality is that walking around with a ton of positive vibes and a wonderful outlook on the world is not going to prevent violence from coming to you. And when it does come to you, you better have a hell of a great way to deal with it. Can't get a gun in your state? Make sure you have some really good pepper spray. Or Consider getting a large dog for protection. Those work great. And yeah, now you have a friend who can protect you. I mean, I'm sorry, but yes, violence is the answer. When it's used to react to life-threatening violence that someone else has initiated against you or a loved one. Sometimes you need an equalizer. A gun makes a really great equalizer if you're properly trained on how to use it. Fact of reality. Violence is the answer. Sorry to disappoint you if you were expecting to hear something else. Fact of reality. I hope this clears things up. You cannot defend yourself without hurting your attacker. Physically fucking impossible. That's it for today, guys. Please stay safe out there. Please stay safe out there and realize that sometimes violence is the only way to do that. I'll see you guys soon.